So hey guys, welcome to my new movie review. This is a new character from the new Star Wars trilogy. Um, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. So for those who still haven't seen the new Star Wars film, just got to get this one window out of the way there. So for those who still haven't seen the new Star Wars film, this is completely spoiler-free. No spoilers are going to be given away in this video. And like I said, to kind of prove my point, I'm not even going to tell you who this little guy is. But he is from the new trilogy. He appears in The Force Awakens, and I guess the best I can tell you about him is he becomes friends with R2D2. That's the most I'm going to tell you. But in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, the best spoiler-free synopsis I can provide for you for this movie is there's a desert scavenger and an ex-stormtrooper, and they run into a series of situations that kind of flip their lives upside down. They're both definitely living a life that they never thought they were going to have, and that this new life for them kind of begins upon meeting characters from the original trilogy of Star Wars. That's all I'm going to say about the synopsis. So, I loved Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. This film, J.J. Abrams directed this movie. You know, he's worked on Mission Impossible 3, Super 8. He's produced a bunch of stuff. He's helped the Lost TV show. He's done tons of stuff, and he's always said since the beginning that Star Wars is ultimately what made him want to become a director. He saw the original Star Wars, I believe, in Los Angeles when that first came out. So he was definitely a part of that huge crowd when the movie first got really huge. Star Wars is basically his life. If it weren't for Star Wars, he wouldn't be the man that he is today. So it was a very appropriate choice from Disney's behalf that he directed this movie. And I'm going to get to my positives and negatives, spoiler-free ones, of course, of why J.J. Abrams was such a great choice for this movie. So for my positives and negatives of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, there's just many and great exciting new characters that we get to meet in this movie. A lot of people were worried, if the original trilogy characters are more like side characters, or those are characters that these new characters are going to meet throughout the movie. How they're going to pull it off. Whatever they did, they pulled it off. They got us interested in these new characters. They're very exciting new characters. I'm still curious to see just exactly how these characters are going to be continued for episode 8 and 9. They fit in with the universe very well, so for those who are worried that they might not fit into the Star Wars universe well, they do. They've introduced us to some great new characters, and I can't wait to see what they do with them next. The old cast characters who are in this movie, they're a ton of fun. They're very appropriately handled, I thought. The Han Solo you remember from the original trilogy is very much continued here, and same with Princess Leia, and same with Luke Skywalker. Those characters are continued in the right way. There's one I just don't want to get into detail on, but the way I thought they were handled for the story that they went with, I thought was appropriate. So, and keep in mind, we do have episode 8 and 9, so the story's really not quite finished yet. So we still have 2 more movies to basically see a continuation of what we were just given. But J.J. Abrams it was his duty to kind of get us interested in Star Wars again. So by the time 8 and 9 come out, those directors can have their vision and continue the story in a way that they think would be appropriate. So they're doing they're doing here with Disney owning the rights to Star Wars. I feel like they're doing it right. One thing that J.J. Abrams brought to this movie that we haven't seen a Star Wars film probably since Return of the Jedi is great practical effects. One thing the prequels still to this day have done that people have still not forgiven George Lucas for is those films were so heavy with CGI, and there was so much green screen, and there was so much things that were going on in those movies that were not practically done. They were all done in a green screen room somewhere. J.J. Abrams, what he brought back was actually going out to a desert, or actually going out to some place where you could film these scenes, and then you would practically have like real creatures or people in costumes, or ways to create the lightsaber battles where you don't really need a lot of CGI to do it. And he brought that back. He brought it back the way George Lucas first gave that to us in 1977. He found a way to kind of make it look old fashioned, and he was still able to use 2015 technology in this movie, so it still didn't look too out of date. But the way he handled it, it looks so appropriate for a Star Wars movie. It's definitely the Star Wars style we deserved in the prequels, and I think Abrams definitely brought it back for this new trilogy, and I'm hoping Rian Johnson and Colin Trevorrow are able to continue that in their Star Wars movies. This film has a great storyline and action scenes. Once again, I can't get to the storyline because that would be spoiler filled. Action scenes are great. Abrams knows how to film great action scenes. He's a great director in the sense that he avoids shaky cam. He lets us see what's going on. In a way, the action scenes kind of continue the story. They fit what's going on in the story, so they're able to move it along. So the plot really isn't held off in any way. So I feel like the action scenes, in a way, are incorporated into the story. I also like how J.D. Abrams makes this feel like something we'd see in 1977. Let's just hypothetically say after A New Hope, it got huge, and somehow Hollywood found a way to make a film immediately for the following year. I think J.J. Abrams, his film kind of feels like that in the sense that what if you took what would take 3 years, like it did for Empire Strikes Back, and what if we got that in the 70s right away, in a good way, obviously. And I feel like Abrams was able to make a 1977 film that didn't come out in 1977, and it feels really cool as a result. I also like how Episode 7 makes us hungry for 8 and 9, and for those who see the film, you're going to know what I'm talking about. This film makes you hungry for another one. We almost kind of demand what Rian Johnson might be doing with the next one, and what Colin Trevorrow is going to do to wrap it up for his movie. This film makes us hungry for those sequels, so I really can't wait to see what they do next with this new trilogy. For my negatives of Episode 7, really I only had this one nitpick. Any other nitpicks I may have had might have been spoiler related, so I just not even going to bring those up. But for the one I feel that is worth mentioning that doesn't really spoil anything, when Abrams does need CGI, when CGI is kind of necessary for a scene in a way, there are some moments in the movie where they're either trying to do it through motion capture or something that's some modern day action we would probably be using. I would say definitely Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Those special effects in those movies are definitely probably the more modern day technology that's used in this movie. But when they do things like that, some of that CGI is very noticeable, and I think that just goes to show just how great those practical effects are. And unfortunately, when you put them right next to that modern day technology with this modern day CGI, it just looks very noticeable. It looks very artificial compared to the natural stuff. You really can't do it. It either has to be one or the other, and there's some scenes where that idea kind of clashes. So unfortunately for some of the CGI in the movie, when they do absolutely have to use it, some of it is kind of noticeable and not in a good way. But I am going to give Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a 9.5 out of 10. I think this is easily one of the best films I've seen in 2015. Probably the best Star Wars film since the original trilogy. And I actually really like Return of the Jedi, so I probably would say it's in that same league as that movie, and that's good for me. I really liked New Hope and Empire Strikes Back as well. So 9.5 out of 10 for me. If you haven't seen The Force Awakens yet, definitely do so. This little guy's going to thank you for it. J.J. Abrams just did a really terrific job, and I really think this is one of the best films we've gotten in 2015. So 9.5 out of 10. Be sure to see The Force Awakens if you haven't seen it yet.